Welcome to another presentation of the judge panel for this year's legal challenge. And here with me is Anna from Warsaw. You're from Warsaw, right?
Yes, I am.
So let's start with this. Is Warsaw the business center of Poland, or it's more balanced and you have some law firms that do not have an office in Warsaw?
Well, definitely, there is a lot of business that has their seats in Warsaw, and here's like the center of business. But when you're thinking about games industry, it doesn't really mean that you will meet all these companies here in Warsaw. They are just spread around Poland and looking for very interesting, locations around Poland, not necessarily in Warsaw.
So as a Polish law firm, are you expected to have a single headquarters office and that's it? Or it also happens that you will have a small representative branch in a different city? Or the country is still like compact enough?
Yeah, I mean, today working from wherever does not really make such a difference, when specifically where people stopped meeting in person and just, moved everything online. So it doesn't really matter where am I located or seated. But what I found is that it's much easier to work with people who are gathered somewhere, around you. So I prefer to have people who work with me in this closest team, somewhere in a reachable distance. But as I said, these days it doesn't really make any difference.
And how big is your firm?
Well, now we are 11. We have 11 people in our firm, and these are only people who specialize in intellectual property and data protection, new technologies law. So we are focused only on these areas of law. And what I really like saying is that we only do what we like doing.
And what would be a big firm for Poland? Would be like having a 500 lawyers a big firm, or there are firms that have 1,000 lawyers? Like, what is the standard?
Well, usually the biggest firms get like 200 to 250 lawyers altogether. So these are the biggest in numbers.
And how old is your firm?
Well, our firm is 3 years old. We set up our boutique law firm only a few years ago, and we all come as partners, as owners of the firm from big law firms. Where we were practicing for many years, some of us even for 30 years, and now we decided, just to work together and build something that we really like, and to serve our clients, the quality and the type of work that we really like and enjoy doing.
And what is your strongest area of expertise? Were you before a litigation lawyer, or were you like, where did you practice, let's say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, before you started working with the games industry?
Yeah, we focused on helping clients in carrying on their business, specifically in games industry, in media, telecoms, entertainment, all these types of areas of business. And we are mostly focused on helping clients with drafting and negotiating contracts. But then we also help them in litigation cases. And specifically right now, we are heavily engaged in personal data protection issues relating to either doing online business, or for example, preparing new business strategies. And specifically at that moment, we are really engaged in many litigation cases initiated by a supervisory authority in personal data protection.
And litigation in Poland, is it competitive? Is it, outside of Poland, we see all kinds of news and the judicial crisis and the whole thing. Like, does it affect the industry somehow, or is it too far away from what happens to the games industry?
I'd say that it depends on the type of the business. We see many types of how our clients are actually doing business and how do they treat litigation cases. So there are crises which actually may turn back the company and actually make it go into the direction that the company would not like to go. But we also see and we also engaged in cases which do not really change the business very much, and companies are just trying to live with this as much as possible and find the best solution, but not to change the whole business just due to the fact that the authority is thinking about it in a different way. Specifically, that usually we also find that people in business really know what they want to do, they know how to do this. But sometimes the law is a little bit too restrictive to do many interesting things or to introduce new initiatives. And then sometimes they tend not to agree with what comes up to the mind of our authorities. And that's why we are there to help them to find the bridge between what the authority is thinking and how you can actually do the business and what you would like to do.
And most of your clients would be Polish companies or international, or it's a mix, international companies doing business in Poland or Polish companies doing business in Poland?
Thinking about numbers, the biggest number would be international companies that they have either the branches in Poland or they just doing the online business in Poland, or they do not have any establishment in Poland, but some authorities are actually on their way coming from Poland. But thinking about the types of businesses, like for example, games industry, we have clients from here from Poland.
And do you feel the growth of the Polish games industry? I've seen the report at the end of 2019 that indicated 10,000 people employed in the games industry. Do you feel this tempo, this growth, like new studios coming up? And is there any positive or negative effect from your stock market situation where you have quite a few games companies listed?
Yeah, we see a lot of these businesses spreading out, and then sometimes not really, having a very stable path. So different things may happen. But working with the major companies, the biggest game companies in Poland, we see that they are pretty much on their path and have absolutely wonderful new ideas on what to do, and we are actually needed for them in this type of work where there are new ideas coming up, and we have to somehow try to put them and somehow try to make them fix in between the lines of law.
So you've been litigating. I mean, you've been in the court defending the cases and presenting in front of the judges. Would you say that the current generation of Polish lawyers, the new crop, is speaking the same language as the judges, or there is a generational difference and you look at the judges and they grew up maybe back in the Soviet Union days or close enough, and here you have this new fancy lawyer who got their degree in London, and there's like a big disconnect, or it's more or less the same and you've got younger judges now?
Well, I'll start with saying that I actually I've been practicing to become a judge in Poland, and I passed the exam to be a judge in Poland. So I spent a lot of years in courts, actually looking at the work of judges, and I've been privileged in the way that I could talk directly to judges. I could actually try to understand the way that they think. And what I found is that they are actually, scared of having, copyright-related, games industry-related cases, because no one ever gave them a chance to, get to know this type of law, this type of business. So I'd say that this is pretty difficult for them. But this is also a very good lesson learned by us, is that when we go to a court with cases like that, we just know that we have to inform the judge about everything from very scratch. try to explain everything, absolutely everything that seems to be like, basic information for you. When you go to the court, you shouldn't stop thinking that they are already at the same level and that they have the same knowledge level as you have. And once you understand that it's much easier to find the way to communicate with the judges, to explain them the case. But just remember that the fact that you are in that business and you know so much about this business does not really mean that the person that is going to judge your case knows the same or knows at least a little of that. I'm not saying the judges are not either skilled, experienced, or anything like that. It's just that when you go there with a case that is business specific, and usually game sector litigation is very sector specific, you just cannot expect that the same judge who yesterday had a divorce case and tomorrow he will have a case where he has to split fields into parts would know anything about how it really works.
And then you go into like open source and repositories and GitHubs and collaboration and user-generated content, and then you can go back and do it. How easy it is to hire a new lawyer in-house or at a law firm in Poland for a games industry role? Like, is it something people consider as a good career choice, or it's not yet on the radar, or thanks to CD Projekt and City Interactive and 11-bit and all the other, I think, Playway, thanks to them it's something that's respectable and people are interested in?
I'd say that this sector is very attractive and also very attractive for lawyers. And I think it is actually, you may say that it's not that difficult to find a lawyer for this sector to help such companies with dealing with legal cases. But I would say it's very difficult to find a lawyer who has enough knowledge and experience to be able to work on such cases alone without having to teach him for many years. So we are also looking for our law firm lawyers that can help us in this specific sector. We are pretty selective, but I must say that even though types of cases that we are doing are really attracting people, we are often found in a situation where people say after a couple of years, like, no, it's just too difficult, too demanding, too many nights that I cannot really sleep due to so many difficult cases, that they either resign or just give up at the very beginning.
Because of the whole complexity of the story, yeah. So I mean, probably with 10,000 people working in the industry and listed companies, the community of lawyers who work with video games in Poland is going to grow and keep growing, just because when you have a large listed company, you have so many areas you have to cover, and also you're a big market. So with your regulational legal framework, the global companies are going to run into some problems, and then the cases will happen, and then that gives more experience and more experience. What would you be looking at the legal challenge from the side of the teams? Like, which do you think skills or aspects of the presentation of the team will make you think that's a great team, they will do well in the real life?
Well, I'd say that for me, that would be specifically knowledge and use of the facts in such cases, and the recognition of issues that need to be talked over and explained, and the quality of legal analysis. I would say that these would be the most important factors for me.
And in litigation in Poland, is it normal that the judge would ask a lot of questions or like interrupt, or it's more of let the lawyer speak and then the judge will ask and then the lawyer speaks? Just asking to understand for the teams, if they present an idea and they look at the faces of the judges and they feel that maybe something is not right, should they stop or should they just continue on and then just wait for the judge to pick up the questions?
Well, I'd say that in normal order. Usually, judges would first give the floor to the speakers so that they can, use their arguments and show the picture. But then, usually, judges start asking questions at any points that they noted they just either do not understand, or they feel they are not fully explored, or they find that somebody specifically tried to pass very quickly over some certain arguments or certain things. This might be the thing that the judge may just notice and may be attracted by. So sometimes it's even better to even touch upon the arguments that are not comfortable for us, but try to say that, they are not comfortable, but we think about them this and this, because this at least does not give the judge so much room for digging very deeply into it, thinking that somebody is trying to get away with something.
And what would, in your experience, be something very bad that a team can do? So what would be the death sign for you in the sense of, okay, these guys will drown in the courtroom, so I'm not going to hire them to represent me?
I'd say that mostly will be if I found anyone lying about the facts that we have in a case. That would actually would flash me a red sign that there may be something really bad going on. I would say that the power of a lawyer is about using the facts that he has at hand, using them smartly, and finding arguments to strengthen his ideas, and not really trying to use the arguments in a bad way, in the way that you can find that somebody's not telling you the truth.
And do you expect the teams to have sort of a dynamic presentation, or they can stop and say, okay, I need a minute to think of, or how are you about taking notes? Is it okay if someone is listening to the other party and then just, does a little note taking and then maybe looks at this, or not really?
I don't mind about how what is the kitchen of work of a given person, but I really like people who are passionate about what they do, even if they've been repeating their speech for like 20 times within the past week. Then still, if they are passionate about what they are doing, if they really feel it, you can usually you can feel it with them. So you just from the very beginning you find out who's already tired about the case and who is still emotional about it. And I feel that those emotional people, I'm not saying about wonderful emotions like crying or screaming, but just being passionate about what you're doing because you are either fascinated about it or you're just interested in that. That really gives the people who are listening to you this fun and this attraction.
Well, I mean, it sounds great. We have 4 teams from, I think, 7 or 8 countries, so it's a mixed. I think it's the unique thing specific to the games industry and maybe a few other industries like technology, where you have people from different countries working on the issues that are more or less global. So even if you're, let's say, a Poland-based lawyer, an American-based lawyer, the questions that come up, they always are outside of the borders. How do you do this globally, and how do you apply this specifically to the Polish legislation, but not really. No game. I think very few games. Well, maybe there are a few that are just specifically for one market. But outside of the big exemptions like China, you would probably have everything global. So when you design the game, you have to think about the whole thing and the whole world and how that applies. So that it's normal to have people from different backgrounds in the same legal team. But we'll see. It's the second year we have the Polish team in the semifinals. That is on itself pretty funny, because that means that there is a lot happening in the country, and we see just a part of it. Because when you talk to the Polish teams, they have friends, and the friends participated in this moot court and that moot court. So you can see there's a lot of things happening. So that's great for the Polish industry as well. So we'll see how that happens. But we made sure that you are in a different semifinal than the Polish team, just to be extra sure. We had this before with the German judge and the German team, and we've done the same thing just to make sure that there is a risk that maybe you'll be too strict with them. Maybe you'll just say, hey, you have to be even better because you represent my country. So we want to see how it goes. In every judge panel we have an American judge and then non-American judges, so again to balance the maybe court drama, because we know that we have one idea of American courts, and then we don't want one of the judge panels to be too American, or to say, well, we judged you based on the American experience. So we'll see how that goes, and then all of the teams, they will be a part of the summit, so we'll have some real life opportunity to get a look and feel and talk to them and see how they go. And I'm pretty sure quite a lot of them will end up working in the games industry. So that's also a good showcase of where they start. And then 5 years later, we'll see where they are. And some of them will be in-house, some of them will be law firms. But thanks for contributing your experience and for all the time you spent looking at the submissions. And we'll see what happens. But the quality of the judge panel is amazing, and all of you have experience in litigation. All of you come from different countries with experience in tech law and games industry law, working with clients, taking challenging matters. So whoever wins will have this credibility that they won in front of the judge panel that is as good or stronger as the normal court panel would be, or an arbitration panel would be. So we'll see in 3 weeks. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Cheers. And thanks to all those law firms and game studios that help us make the summit possible. And we'll see you in the next presentation video.